how do we get people into the right places? So we started a site called We Have Jobs Here as well. So when you go to the advancingmanufacturing.com site, we have jobs here, we have training. We Have Jobs Here was because we did have jobs here. We have a new aluminum plant, actually 2 new aluminum plants starting, one hiring about 150 people, one hiring about 250 people. We've got current employers that are ramping up production as the economy recovers. We've got all kinds of things happening where there were jobs to be filled now, and our pipeline of people that come through this program can't be cranked up and cranked out large enough volume at the time. So we have our online application for those employers. All of our partner firms who work through the Advancing Manufacturing Program have a special web-based application that we use. It's kind of like Monster.com, where they go in and put in their job orders, and the employees come in and fill out their application, and then check the employers that they would like to be involved with, and we help to connect them. We also do additional screening and testing to help facilitate the movement of people through the process. Now, the Work One system has something that's kind of like this, but this is something that's specialized for them, and the real value in this is that we're able to promote this. The rest of the We Have Jobs Here is actually an advertising campaign that reaches out within our region and outside our region to attract workers to our area, or attract them to manufacturing jobs. For instance, when we first started this program in February, we also advertised in places like Elkhart and Anderson and Danville, Illinois, where we knew that there were skilled workers available and jobs that would be sufficient to relocate to our community. So we did radio blitzes in those areas and website advertising and print advertising to reach out to those folks. And we were fairly successful. I'll show some numbers in a while about how that works. But that's the We Have Jobs Here campaign. So what's happening to a lot of folks is they come in for a while to look for a job, and it doesn't work out. You know, they're not getting hired, and they get the We Have Training Here piece. So they work together. This all works because of alignment. I've talked to half a dozen communities in the last month about this, and another example is I talked to the Council of Mayors for the state of Indiana, and the question was, how can we get this program started? Well, it's not a program; it's a community effort, and the community effort works because we have alignment and we have agreement and momentum because of that. The alignment is between employers, the educators, community organizations, workforce development, economic development, all kinds of folks. That Advancing Manufacturing gives us, as an initiative, gives us the framework to have a conversation with each of these groups. We talk about the fact that for educators, doesn't matter if you're a K-12 educator, we have 120 students in our high school in Lafayette currently enrolled in a program that generates a certified production technician. So it doesn't really matter how you get there or who does it. We can align around a standard like the certified production technician. When we talk to employers and job seekers, we can talk about Advancing Manufacturing as a place. It's a virtual place. It's on the web, but it's a place where they can all come together and get hooked up. We can talk to government about ways that it helps to increase the value of our manufacturing, the value that we provide to our manufacturers to help keep them here, to help them grow, to help grow the economy. So Advancing Manufacturing has quickly become the kind of thing that allows us to talk to any of these groups and to provide a common understanding about what it is we're trying to achieve. The alignment, frankly, is why this works. The alignment is why we have momentum, and the alignment is why it was able to grow as quickly and as successfully as it did. This is a sample of some of the companies that are involved with us. We have about 48 partner firms involved, signed on right now. You'll see things that are large. You'll see Subaru. You'll see Caterpillar. You'll see little places like TrueFlex Metal Hose and AdChem and Oxford House. So it doesn't matter if you're big or little in all of this. If you're part of that manufacturing food chain, this helps you. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about how it's different now. Subaru, for example, will probably not hire people to come directly out of our course. But they see benefit in the food chain, in making sure that they know that they tend to hire people who come from Caterpillar or from Fairfield or from other kinds of companies in our community. And the smarter they come in, and the more prepared people are that are moving through that food chain system, the better off they are. So they want to invest in that system to provide workers for them. A top tier of employers benefits in that way. That middle tier of employers looks at hiring directly in order to take people out of this course and put them directly into work with shorter onboarding times, with lower turnover rates, and with lower first-year injury rates. The small firms benefit in the same way for people who may not have any manufacturing experience at all and come through this kind of a course. Maybe the high school students that are coming out with very little work experience. So there's a place, there's a role for everybody in this. And so our partners are diverse in terms of where they're located throughout our 8-county region. They're diverse in terms of what they make. They're diverse in terms of their size, ownership, all kinds of things. But what they have in common is that they all want applicants with a clue. And so we've all agreed on what that means by looking at these statements. So these, I talked about alignment. Our partners, our community partners, our critical community partners are economic development, workforce development, local government, and utilities. The local government, we've talked about a lot of this already. The local government piece is a very important piece. Mr. Mayor, the thing that we know is that of all the power that you have, when you talk about an 8-county region and you have a fairly small geographic area, one of the things that you have is the power to convene. And so we work with our mayors to help bring people to the table, just like Kim's done with this meeting today, bring people together. To bring people together around a subject like this, the mayors are powerful pieces. Mayors also can hold one of our key funding sources, which is editing. Utilities are important because utilities like manufacturing just like the rest of us do. Utilities, electric meters tend to spin faster than everybody else's, so that's a good thing for them. So that they became a natural partner for us as well. So how do we fund this thing? It's really kind of a hodgepodge of funding, which is nice. You can call it hodgepodge, or I guess I can call it a diversified portfolio. Whichever way you want to approach it, I guess. But we started out with the first money that was laid on the table for this, which was kind of interesting. Like I said, let's flash back for a minute. Indiana Jones running in front of the big ball. Okay, we talked to people about employers about doing this, and they said that's great, good stuff. That's what we want. Do it. Can you start next week? Go. You know. Like all the great entrepreneurial ideas, we had a great idea, we didn't have any money. And so I happened to have a grant sitting around that we repurposed for this to lay the first $170,000 on the table and say, okay, community, what else can we do? We were immediately matched by the folks from the Workforce Investment Program through Work One, and they said we can match those dollars. So we had $350,000 to get started with. But it didn't stop there. We went back to the mayors and the folks who hold the EDIT funding and said, you know, one of the things that you do with your EDIT funding, at least in our area, is that they provide it to employers to help train their current workers. So they may get $50,000 or $100,000 a year to help train their workforce. And we said, especially to the larger firms, people like Caterpillar, said, you know, every year you get this $50,000. At Caterpillar, what do you think $50,000 is in the training budget? Blink, right? Drop in the bucket, right? So we said, what if that money, instead of going to training 5 people in something, went to training your supply of your next generation of workers? What if you funded this kind of a program knowing that the overall quality of the workforce for manufacturing is going to improve? Would you divert that money there instead? And they said we sure would. And so they went back to the mayors and commissioners to talk about diverting some of that money into that fund. So we got $100,000 from those folks right off the bat from the county that said, here's $100,000 for folks that live in our community to achieve this certification. Last one we have, if you've ever driven up I-65, of course Chicago, you drive through wind turbine land, okay? Well, the nice thing about that for us is that every time one of those things turns and ticks over, it populates an economic development fund, which just happens to have about $12 million sitting in it after the first 2 years. So it can fund this kind of activity as well. So we get this kind of local funding mix to go with the federal mix, the federal piece. Finally, we said, you know, if we really want a diverse portfolio, we need to have private. So I was lucky enough to be in the room with about 20 of our CEOs, similar to today, when we were proposing the concept for this to them. And are you familiar with Wabash National Corporation, largest manufacturer of tractor trailers in the United States? Well, their chairman said, cool idea, Craig. How are you going to keep it going? I hadn't thought about that yet. So I made something up. and what I made up is now called our Sustainability Fund. But what I said was, remember when we went back, remember when we were talking about the scholarships here? The scholarships were $2,600, right? So I said, all right, so here's the deal for the Sustainability Fund. I asked Mr. Giormini, who's the CEO of Wabash National, I said, here's the plan. I'm going to try not to cause a seizure in anyone here. I'm going to go back to this for a second. But if for your company, I go out and I recruit candidates throughout the region who are interested in working in manufacturing, I make sure that they have the reading for information, locating information, and math skills required to work in manufacturing. I put them through a 5-panel drug screen and they pass. They sign a contract with us and maintain perfect attendance in the class. They complete 140 hours of classroom training. They complete 4 national certification exams. And then they go to work for you. And then, after going to work for you, 90 days later, they're still working for you. Did I add value? I said, yeah, that's value to me. All right, so, if I add value to you, on the 91st day of that person's employment, will you put $1,300 back into the system? So that for every 2 people we train on public money, we can train 1 person on private money. And they all said yes. They all signed on to the Sustainability Fund. So we have a private sector investment as well, along with utility. So we have private money. So we're not beholden to one funding source. In any community, that funding source might look different. The mix might look different, depending on who the partners are, what happens to be lying around on the table, what creativity you come up with. It doesn't really matter if it's bake sales or grants or endowments or whatever. But we have long-term sustainability and balance. The things that we've done to date, I told you we launched this initiative with press. We had the Kaizen event that I talked about. We had in November. So just about a year ago today, we had our Kaizen event to kind of fish through what were the real problems that were happening and how can we get to the root cause of this, identify a solution that would work. And then we launched the Advancing Manufacturing Initiative with a press conference on February 8th. On March 17th, we had our first certified production technician. At the time I made this slide, we had 34 partner firms. We have about a little over 45 partner firms right now. We've graduated 90 people from that program already. At the end of each one of those classes, we have a reverse job fair where every one of our candidates gets to meet with every one of our partner firms. And so we mix it up with them to make sure that we get placement along the way. The interesting, one of the fun things about the placement piece, how am I doing on time?
You're fine.
Okay, all right. I could be up here all day, you know. But the interesting thing about the placement piece of this is that, I had to share this with our students in our first group, because as our first group came near to completion, employers were starting to call me saying, can you send me the resumes now? Can you get them to me? How can I interview people ahead of time? And they were starting to jockey for position, and they were like, well, how do I know the super's not going to get them all? How do I know that so-and-so's not going to get them all? And we had to finally just say, okay, we're going to quarantine these folks. We're going to send you all. I mean, it was interesting because everybody was afraid everybody else was going to steal them, which never happens with this group of folks. You never had people fighting over them before, which is kind of fun. So we will send out a summary of their resumes with their names, with no other contact information, so you can't reach out and get them. Honest to goodness, the first job fair that we had, we made them stand out in the hall, the employers, and let the gates go because some of them were afraid that everybody else would get in there first. So employers were eager to get at the people that had a clue. They really wanted to get people that had that. So they had a lot more than a clue. They had the skills